This is the tallest tropical tree in the world, located in the Malaysian state of Sabah. This 88.32-meter dipterocarp tree belongs to the Soraya kuning siput species. It is truly one of the marvels of Borneo Island that is home to a myriad of flora and fauna. To protect this tree and other trees and life forms in the rainforests, the Sabah State Legislature approved the Forest Enactment in 1968. Indeed, the sole intent is to safeguard and preserve the state's natural heritage. These evergreen tropical rainforests are home to many rare and endemic species such as the orangutan, hornbill, the proboscis monkey, the Borneo pygmy elephant and the Sumatran rhinoceros. Any human activity in the forests is a potential threat to the natural habitat of all wildlife. Moreover, these forests are a valuable source of clean, fresh air and pure water that are vital to the survival of the human race and all living creatures. The Forest Enactment 1968 empowers officials of the Sabah Forestry Department as custodians of these forests to ensure that the rule of law prevails on the land from mountaintop to coastal regions.
You can have all the policies in the world, you can have all the clever people, and you can have all the laws. But if these laws and policies are not enforced, then everything is just an exercise in futility. We have good laws here in this country, and particularly here in Sabah. And it is our duty in the department to ensure these laws are enforced. Otherwise, you will run down into a situation of mob rule, and there's nothing worse than when mob rule dictates public policy.
This strong conviction and determination to enforce the law is firmly entrenched within the Sabah Forestry Department, in particular its Enforcement and Investigation Division.
The cases that we brought to court, we secure 87%, we secure the convictions. Now I think Forestry Department is in the right track, in the right position to combat forestry crimes.
Having the laws is one thing, but you must have trained people, who are competent and confident in carrying out their duties. For this, you need good training. And over the years, we have been able to build up a core of experts in this regard. And this has been very helpful. We are very proud of the fact that our prosecutions have gone very well in court. We have lost very few cases, and we have won the majority of cases. And we will continue to upgrade this expertise.
Events have shown that foresters have to risk their life and limbs to ensure that the rule of law prevails. Foresters like Indra Sunjoto, the District Forestry Officer in charge of the Ulu Sagama Malua Forest Reserves in the Lahad Datu district. The Sabah government has earmarked a conservation of 250,000 hectares of logged over area in this particular forest reserve. This is to ensure the survival of wildlife species that are indigenous to Borneo.
So one of the most challenging part in this working in this area is dealing with the poachers, because we have quite significant numbers of poaching incidents in this area. The community here actually is quite aware about the prohibition of doing illegal hunting in the forest reserve. So in our part, we just deliver our duty to enforce the forest enactment. So we continue the enforcement activity by having collaboration from several relevant agencies like police, wildlife department and Sabah Foundation. And as the result, we found that the frequency of illegal entry or poaching is decreasing by the time, and we hope by continuous joint effort we could manage this area in a good practice, and at the end we could achieve a better result.
Okey, berita faham. Over, kami akan jalankan rondaan seperti biasa.
Offences related to illegal cultivation of crops in forest reserves is another threat to the preservation of forest reserves. Whilst it is vital to safeguard Sabah's rainforests, it has to be recognised that the development and expansion of commercial crop plantations in the state are important to its socio-economic growth. There is, therefore, pressure to clear more land for this commercial crop, causing encroachments into forest reserves by individuals and even corporations. District forestry officers are on the constant lookout for such offences. When such cases are detected, steps are taken to verify the extent of encroachment and the overlapping of boundaries. At the forest district of Kunak, for instance, a total of 9,000 hectares of the Ulu Kalumpang Class 1 Forest Reserve have been illegally occupied and planted by small holders with cocoa, oil palm and fruit trees. Once the proper boundaries have been established, whatever plants and housing structures found within the boundary of forest reserve areas would have to be destroyed or demolished. Then begins the costly and time-consuming task of restoring the affected forest areas. With the ever-increasing need of a growing population in Sabah for more land, there have been many instances where rural communities have occupied areas that are within the boundaries of forest reserves in the state. These offences have been made more complicated when certain groups of villagers are supported and financed by land encroachers with commercial gains as the real motives, using the villagers to front their illegal operations. For cases of rural communities who are genuinely in need of land for settlement and planting of crops, the government has taken positive steps to assist them in resettlements and the planting of commercial crops that would lift them out of abject poverty. There is a case at the Lingkabau Forest Reserve in the Kota Marudu district where 10 rural villages have been found illegally occupying various parts of the reserve. After assessing the situation and giving special consideration to the socio-economic well-being of the rural folks, the government decided to offer them land for a new settlement known as Kampung Gana. It is outside the boundaries of the forest reserve, but close by, about 30 kilometers south of Kota Marudu town in the northern part of Sabah. The project, known as the Ghana Resettlement and Integrated Development, or commonly known as GRID, involves the resettlement of 10 rural communities. The main objective is to provide them with infrastructure and basic facilities and bringing about a stable income for 450 households. So far, about 300 of the households have taken the government's offer to settle at the new village at Ghana, where there is a primary school, a big playing field, community hall, a rural clinic with 2 resident nurses on duty, a library, a public phone connected by satellite transmission, housing and other basic facilities.
Saya rasa memang ada juga perbedaan. Habis dulu kami terlampau truk juga sudah pun jalan kecil saja, tidak dapat jalan kereta, terpaksa kami jalan kaki turun ke Kota Marudu. Nah, sekarang kami senang sudah habis, jalan pun hampir dapat jalan kereta sudah, apalagi kalau macam kerjaan sudah bikin ini jalan raya, memang kami pasti memang senang sudah turun naik Kota Marudu. Sekiranya ada lebihan belanja kami itu jenis kebun-kebunan, kami dapat sampai sana pasaran. Kalau sekiranya ada lebihan makan. Jadi kami harap-harap sekarang ini yang kita buat sekarang ini cepat penghasil juga.
Planting of rubber seedlings is undertaken by the new settlers, and once the plantation is fully established, each participating household shall be allotted a fixed acreage. There are also plans for the road to Kota Marudu to be sealed and for the entire settlement to be converted into a major agricultural scheme. Vast areas of forest reserves in Sabah are destroyed by fire, especially when certain parts of the state experience long droughts. During the first 7 months of 2009, for instance, over 800 hectares of forests were burned due to human activities. Drought in itself does not cause fires in the forests. It merely increases the likelihood of forest fires. All cases of forest fires in Sabah during the first half of 2009 were caused by traditional slash-and-burn shifting cultivators and by hunters. The worst area hit by such fires was the Suk Plain in the interior region. Section 19 of the Forest Enactment states that any person who kindles, keeps or carries any fire or leaves any fire burning near a forest reserve in such a manner as to endanger such reserve or any forest produce therein shall be guilty of an offence. Anyone found guilty of such an offence is liable to imprisonment for 7 years or a fine not exceeding 100,000 ringgit or both imprisonment and fine. The impact of forest fires on the forest resource is catastrophic in nature. This is because fires wipe out not only the trees and plants in the forests, but all the other life forms in its deadly path. Restoration of forest areas degraded by fires remains an important item on the agenda of the Forestry Department. It is both costly and time-consuming.
Kawasan hutan simpan Terus Made ini pernah terbakar pada tahun 1983 dan juga 1998, di mana kawasan ini telah mengalami kerusakan dan kemusnahan yang amat serius. Maka proyek penanaman semula perlu dijalankan oleh Jabatan Perhutanan.
Any logging within 30 meters from both banks of rivers and waterways is a violation of the Forest Management License Agreement. The condition to avoid logging of trees within such limits is clearly stipulated. The breaching of such logging regulations can be avoided if loggers adhere strictly to their comprehensive harvest plan during the harvesting of trees. The same rule applies to work related to industrial tree plantations. Planters too are required to keep these riparian areas clear in order to ensure that there are buffer zones in the forests which are vital for the protection and movement of wildlife in the forests. To ensure that conservation of wildlife, flora and fauna is successful, it is imperative to have forest connectivity and corridors, for without this vital interconnection of forests, hundreds or even thousands of species could become extinct. Moreover, these riparian areas are also crucial in efforts to safeguard the quality of water that is a valuable resource to maintain life of humans as well as animals. If this rule is not strictly imposed, there will be serious consequences, including pollution of rivers and further reduction of wildlife species. Illegal felling of trees and log thefts are among the more serious forest crimes for which severe penalties are imposed on those found guilty. Most forest offences in Sabah are under this category of illegal logging in forest reserves and on state land forests. Records show that over 30% of total forest offences detected are related to felling and possession of logs without valid permits or that they have contravened licence conditions.
We'll be having a full trial. This is the second day of the trial for today, where the case is framed under Section 23, Subsection 2 of the Forest Enactment 1968, which is the offender was charged for being illegally did logging inside a state land. The main objective of this prosecution is to serve as a lesson to the offender and also as a warning to others not to do the offense.
The human weakness to seek fast or instant wealth and greed have been found to be the chief driving force to commit such offences.
I'm glad to say that as far as big-time illegal logging is concerned, I think that is past, that is behind us now. We are now more concerned about the insurgency type of encroachments, illegal felling, so on and so forth, where you have small bands of people, maybe 3 or 4 people who roam about forest reserves with 1 chainsaw, 2 chainsaws and a small boat, and they cut 1 or 2 trees here and there and then convert them into planks and take them out, and which is called bantalan felling.
These illegal activities result in many far-reaching consequences to the environment and the economy of the state. They include heavy loss of state revenue and the destruction of soil due to unplanned and non-systematic logging practices. Logs harvested from the forests by illegal means are sometimes found being used by sawmills in the state, prompting forestry officials to investigate and take legal action against the culprits. Such a case was detected in the Ranau district. The sawmill plant has since ceased operations, pending a court ruling. Logging trucks used in the operations have also been impounded. In Tawau, the government detected cases of offenders found in possession of forest produce without proper documentation and transportation of timber products without a removal pass. The produce comprised of converted timber and sawn timber. The government, mainly through the Forestry Department, has over the past decade been serious in the implementation of sustainable forest management in order to achieve long-term security of the forest functions and resources. Among the many efforts to curb illegal forest activities include amendments to existing laws, as well as tighter enforcement and investigative measures in collaboration with other relevant agencies. In 1995, the state government, in line with the federal government policy, successfully obtained legislative amendments to the Forest Enactment that enables the use of the army to arrest illegal loggers at the request of the Forestry Department's director. In 2001, in an effort to further upgrade the organization of the Forestry Department related to its functions over the supervision and monitoring of forest exploitation and revenue collection on forest produce, the Office of Monitoring, Control, Enforcement and Evaluation, or MCEE, was introduced. The MCEE is to furnish reports directly to the Director, who supports District Forestry Officer in monitoring actions to reduce and eradicate illegal felling and logging activities on the ground. Other offences that result in the loss of revenue by the government are cases involving the evasion of royalty. Such cases include those using forged government documents and the use of forged hammer marks for identification of logs for which royalty has to be paid.
Semasa pemeriksaan, kita hendaklah membawa salinan TDP untuk memastikan nomor balak yang di atas lori sama dengan yang dicatat di dalam TDP. Sekiranya nomor balak didapati tidak sama dengan dalam TDP yang dicatat dalam TDP, kami akan menahan lori ini dan seterusnya menahan balak ini serta pemandu untuk tindakan selanjutnya.
There is a case before the courts in Kuningau where forestry officials had found offenders being in possession of bakau wood for which royalty had not been paid, and a case involving the forgery of government documents. Encroachment into mangrove swamp areas within forest reserves proves to be more difficult and complex for detection and investigation. considering the long coastlines of Sabah right across the western and eastern tip of Borneo Island. Mangrove estuaries have a close association with many of the commercially valuable fish species. These mangroves are vital habitats for juvenile fish and are nursery areas for prawns before they migrate out to the sea. Other marine life like crabs, cockles and mussels are produce from mangrove swamps that contribute to the livelihood of coastal communities who live in the proximity of the mangroves. There is also an increasing demand in recent years for Sabah's mangroves to offer a wide range of recreation and ecotourism opportunities. Many ecotourism spots are developed in specially selected mangrove locations in order to give tourists a chance to see proboscis monkeys and fireflies in the wild. Despite the strategic significance of mangroves to the socio-economic and environmental benefits of the state, particularly to residents of coastal villages, any illegal and irresponsible use of these areas continue to be a threat that requires the constant vigilance and attention of forestry officials. Other violators of these wetlands are those after the bakau wood for construction purposes and the stripping of barks of tangga, a species of mangrove plants. Finding and catching thieves in the act of stealing mangrove wood or barks along the widespread regions of the coasts is very much like trying to find a needle in a haystack. There are countless openings to rivers, estuaries and streams that all look alike. However, the forestry officials on the ground are now better equipped to cope with this difficult task of detection and investigation in their efforts to obtain hard evidence that can be used against offenders who are mostly illegal immigrants from a neighboring country whose islands are close to Sabah. In one particular case, an investigation team headed by the district forestry officer at Pitas was hot on the heels of thieves operating in an area of Jambongan Island, an hour's boat ride from the Pitas coast. With the help of GPS equipment during a regular aerial survey, a number of locations in the area indicated suspicious activities in progress. After plotting these locations on the map and ground checks and surveillance by boat on the ground, a plan was made for on-the-spot investigation. After a quick briefing on the action plan at Kampung Kanebongan on Jambongan Island, the investigation team set out in 3 separate speedboats. Assisted by the GPS equipment, the investigators closed in on the actual locations and soon found traces of freshly cut tree stumps. Moving further, the telltale signs led the team to an abandoned camp. Finding no one in the immediate vicinity, they destroyed the camp and proceeded to other spots. True enough, a member of the team spotted a loading platform along a narrow stream that was covered by a thick canopy, apparently to avoid aerial detection. The team found more than 6 bundles of bakau barks, neatly packed and ready for loading, each bundle weighing about 100 kilograms. There were signs throughout this coastal region of previous actions taken against thieves of bakau wood and barks. Knowing that forestry officials are now better equipped, these foreign thieves are aware that their illegal activities are under constant scrutiny. The Forestry Department has deployed more boats and personnel to this and other coastal districts. These personnel are on 24-hour alert, working closely with the Marine Police Force and other agencies. The Sabah State Government, through the Forestry Department, shall continue with its unrelenting efforts to curb forest offences throughout the state, right from the mountaintop, through the lowlands and to the mangrove swamps by the sea. The government shall see to it that illegal occupation of forest reserves for commercial interest or any outright grabbing of land will no longer be tolerated. It shall remain steadfast and resolute by letting the Sabah Forestry Department manage our forests as it thinks best and letting the rule of law to prevail.
you.